Amen and amen. Well, today is significant. It's Father's Day, but today is actually 43 years ago. This is the day that I got saved. So I'm actually 43 years old, not 49. So this is my spiritual birthday. And it reminds me of Father's Day and my dad, because my dad's the one that led me to the Lord. I still have, even though I was only 6, I have very clear memories of that time, and I remember sitting with my father in the living room asking questions, and I remember kneeling on the couch, getting down in the living room there and praying. And then I remember very clearly, this is one thing that is a very distinct memory, I remember just being so filled with joy. And I always say that's when I got my joy, and then years later God added some more joy in my life, my wedding. But that's tied, my my getting saved is tied to Father's Day, because my dad led me to the Lord, had a part in that, and I'm forever grateful. You may or may not have a good dad, or you may have good memories, bad memories, and my dad wasn't perfect. I'm not perfect, but how do you put a price tag on that? How do you assign a value? You can't. And so I've always gone to that. When Dad was yelling and screaming at me, I was just like, well, he did lead me to the Lord, so. But anyway, and my dad didn't have that. He didn't have that. Here's a picture of him up here. And I don't know if I'm just getting older and more nostalgic, but I'm finding myself curious about him. I'm like, I know hardly anything about him, and I wish Grandma Miner was still alive. I would sit down and just talk with her and just ask her questions, because I'm finding myself wanting to know my history, and I know we don't know if he was saved or not, but I just want to know, and so I'm finding myself, as I get older, kind of being more nostalgic about that. And as I was putting this together, I just kind of, I had so many questions, so. But anyway, today's my spiritual birthday, so me and Wesley will share the same birthday forever. This is the men's time, and we have talked a lot about pride in this church over the years, and it's something that everybody struggles with to some degree. But I want to do something different. I want to swing the pendulum kind of in a different direction. And I think this is a real thing that men struggle with. And I want to give you the solution, or what I think is the solution from the Bible. But it's something that we men struggle with, but we don't talk about. We don't verbalize. We don't share, especially with other men. And so we're not going to talk about pride. But I think men... well, I know we do. I know that we struggle with insecurities. We struggle with feeling inadequate. We struggle with a lack of confidence sometimes. We struggle with, just feeling like we're not enough. And that may be in different areas. It may be on the job. It may be as a husband. It may be as a father. I'm pretty sure, David's already made some comments. I think he's really been kind of thinking and nervous about this thing as a father. He shared some things with me, and he's just, he's freaking out a little bit, And I remember feeling the same way. I mean, just like, man, this is a big deal to have a human being come into your life that you're responsible for, to protect and to nurture in the admonition of the Lord. It's a burden. I'll just be honest with you. That's how I felt, and it was exciting. I'm not saying it was all bad. It was good, but yet I didn't talk a lot about it. But I'm just like, man, this is a big deal to become a father. It's exciting, but yet it's a burden. It's a responsibility. And as men, women love talking about their insecurities, right? They love sitting around and they're bawling and I feel weak and this and I had this problem and I'm this and I'm this. Women love, and afterwards they're just like, oh, this is just great. I just loved it. I felt so good about this. Men, we don't do that, because it's just, we think of it as unmanly, right? As weak. I don't want to appear weak. And we men, we're competitive, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's good, competition can be good, and we put each other down. I put Mike down, Mike puts me down when he gets up here, But as men, I think, what's that?
This lesson stinks.
Keegan already doesn't like it. Let's get in touch with our feelings, guys. It's like, I'm going to start getting tomatoes thrown at me. But I'm not talking about that. But the women are like that. They're much more open about where if they're struggling with something or they're feeling insecure or inadequate or whatever as a mother. And Joy, how many times, Ryan, have you listened to Becky over the years, this or that or whatever is the issue? And we as men probably will share with our wives. Stay calm. That's another one. Just calm down.
You're assuming he's listening.
But we men, we will open up with our wives. There's things, of course, I've shared with Joy that I probably wouldn't share with anybody else. But on the other hand, we don't do that with each other as guys, and I think that's a bad thing. I'm not saying that we gotta every single week just share our feelings or whatever. But guys, we're much more reserved about that. But yet I'm telling you, it still happens in our head. It still goes on. Right? We have this conversation in our head, maybe it's Satan, like, you're not good enough, or, you can't do this, maybe, David's feeling that way with starting this, the electrician thing. It's pretty complicated, there's a lot of math involved and schematics, and I've seen some blueprints that Tian and Ryan open up, and my eyes glaze over. I'm just like, it looks like you took 2 handfuls of spaghetti and threw it on the paper. I'm like, how? This just makes no sense to me. It's intimidating. But I think we men, we do feel that way. We struggle inside and say maybe it could be some spiritual attack, but sometimes it's just a lack of confidence. I don't feel like I'm a good husband, or I'm not being a good father, and that's what I wanted to talk about. So kind of the opposite of pride. It's just like, as men, I know it happens. We're not verbal about it, Am I the only one up here
Yep.
See? Keegan and Mike are like, yeah, you're the only one. But, men, it's hard because we think it's unmanly or weak to do so. But yet, we all know that we're imperfect and that we have struggles. There's struggles with finances and relationships and different things like that. And we're all in different stages here. We got the Lemons, they're, in a different stage than I'm at in my life. They're not married, but they're looking and they're praying about it and they're open to it. And they're traveling the entire world trying to find that one. That's what he says, but every young man's looking at, or open to the possibility, because that's, for most people, that's what God's called them to do, is to marry and to lead a family. But I'm going to take that as a yes, that all of us are just like me. We have, as men, we have insecurities. We have times where we're feeling inadequate or overwhelmed by different things. And even with my wife, a lot of it is internal, and I just deal with it, and I don't share even with my wife. Now, I share more with her than I will with you guys. But even with my wife, I'm like, I got to be the strong one, and she's falling to pieces and this and that, and she's very open and she shares every little detail. And like Mike, I have found myself a few times, it's just my eyes glaze over, and she's like, "Are you listening?" I'm like, "Huh? What?" Come back to earth. But Raleigh, that laughs at a lot.
I have a comment. I'm at work, and this was one the other day or something. And I'm sitting there, and I get a text from Shannon. And whatever, she's like, hey, babe. And I'm like, hey. And she's like, I just cried during a movie. I'm like, okay. Like, just what you're talking about. I'm just like, oh, okay. Good.
Yes, but for her, that felt good to share that,
yeah,
right?
I was like, I did a lot for me on my break.
Mike, when's the last time I texted you and said, "Hey, I just cried at a movie"? Never.
Absolutely. I just cried at the movie. I'm like, okay.
Oh yeah, no, that's a perfect illustration. It's like, I would never do that to another man. I don't even think I'd do that to Joy. Whatever. But anyway, so I've been thinking about this because it's come up. The last few weeks, I've just been thinking about this thing, and I'll go ahead and mention this thing of confidence. I'm not talking about pride. We know that pride's bad, but yet you have over here, let's just say that there's a man that's prideful, he's arrogant, he's egotistical. I'm just going to share with you what my wife has told me. She's like, women despise that. We can see right through that. And I think that's just kind of across both, sexes. As a man, if you're around somebody that's prideful and arrogant, it's a huge, you don't want to be around that one person. You don't like that person. They're just, we know people like that, right? You've been around, and I know some people like that, at the fire department, and they just always bragging about themselves, and it's just like, I don't want to be around that. It's just, and too, there's just they're just a human, right? They make mistakes, and they're not really as great as they're making themselves out to be. But my wife has also shared with me, and I don't know if this is universal across with all women, but I think it is. But she's also shared that, a man that's like mealy-mouthed, weak, insecure, he's always needing, somebody to kind of help him, that doesn't have any fortitude, that is I just, weak or insecure, that's also a huge turnoff to women. Women want security, right? They want someone that's going to protect them, that they can count on, that's going to have some character and some tough times. And so both of these, are very unattractive, for, you see a man that's just, like I'm thinking of a guy right now that I know very, very, very well, that he does not lead his family. He does not rule in his house. His wife very much is in charge. And it's just, I'm sorry, it's just a little bit pathetic. It's just like, man, it's like, almost, I don't know if I can say that from the pulpit. Are we live? But grow something and be a man. be a man. But this, she just comes in and she tells him how it's going to be, and then, but it's funny, once she leaves, and he's like, I was thinking about telling her this, and I'm just like, after the fact, he's always telling me what he would have done, what he should have done, what he should have said. I'm just like, oh man, I feel bad for the guy, but it's partly, sometimes it's, we as men, if we're weak, then of course we're going to have a strong woman. She's got to fill in the void, right? She's got to fill in the gap. But that's just some things that my wife has shared with me, and I think that most women would agree. They don't want a weak, pathetic, insecure man. They want someone that's not someone that's perfect, but someone that's going to be strong and lead them and guide them. But the word confidence, it appears in the Bible 39 times, and actually sometimes it's in a negative way. And a classic example of that is the very center of your Bible is Psalm 118, verses 8 and 9. It says, it is better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in man. It's better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in princes. And so there, it's a bad thing if we put confidence in somebody else. If we put confidence in Donald Trump, say, hey, he's the savior of the United States of America, or we put confidence in ourselves. I can do this. I am the greatest. I'm gonna fix this problem. The Bible does talk about confidence quite a bit, but it does talk about misplaced confidence. But it also speaks about it in a positive way. And so I guess the solution to this, we know that pride is wrong, but what about, we all struggle with insecurities and feeling overwhelmed and weak at times, or have a lack of confidence in our job or whatever it may be. But what's the solution to that? Well, it's godly confidence, and I have to preface that word with godly because it is possible to put our confidence in ourselves or something bad other than the Lord. I want to give you an illustration. Most of you know this, excuse me, a number of years ago, I'll give that to you. I had just got my CDL license, and I was driving a semi-tractor trailer, and I didn't want to do it, but at the time the economy was way down, and I couldn't find anything. I had applied at all kinds of places, and I wanted to do heavy equipment operation, and I had some training in that. I went to school for that, and nobody was hiring with the construction because just the economy was down. And the only thing I could find was over-the-road trucking. And if you're new to trucking, they pretty much won't ever let you be local. You've got to prove, you got to prove yourself. They kick you out on the road. So I was gone for, a couple weeks at a time. I'd be home for 2 or 3 days. And I was driving, I had been driving about 6 months, and I was in Minnesota. I was heading west. And it was right around 31, 32 degrees. The roads were wet. The snow was coming down, and it looked like it hit, and it just melted right away. Well, I hit a patch of road that had some black ice on it, and I had a flatbed. I had it stacked as high as it could go legally. I had it tarped. It was actually these things right here. I had ceiling tile, and I had it stacked up. I had it strapped. You had to be careful because you reef on it too much, you were going to crush some of the tiles, but I had it secured the way I was taught, and I had these things stacked up to 13.6, and I was just driving along, and I had been driving 6 months. I was still kind of new, and driving through St. Paul, Minneapolis, and I just like this, and Al, when you're in a truck, I mean, you get to know it. I mean, you get to know how it feels when you're making the turns, backing up, whatever. And I just felt something like that felt weird. I just felt the truck go like this. I was like, I didn't turn that. I'm like, that's not a good thing. I'm like, I didn't turn the wheel. Well, I looked at my left mirror, and I didn't see anything. And I looked in my right mirror, and my heart just dropped because I saw the trailer was kicked out and it was slide sideways. And I'm driving, and I'm feeling the truck go like this, and I watch, and the wheels, the tandem in the back, hit that guardrail, and I felt the truck go like this. And talk about, swallowing your heart and panicking. But at that point, I felt a little overwhelmed. I felt insecure about my ability to handle a truck. And that truck, the semi, 80,000 pounds, flipped over on its side, but of course it didn't stop. It just kept on going. And glass was busting, and all my gear was just flopping around in the truck. I had my seatbelt on, but I'm just like this. I'm just dangling. I held on to the steering wheel. I don't know why, because I was trying to but I wanted some sense of control. I wanted some. I'm like, I gotta feel like I got this. But I didn't have it, and the thing was, I was coming up on a bridge, and it was pushing me towards this bridge, and I kid you not, it's just the nose of that thing came and just stopped right at the edge of that bridge. Well, praise the Lord, I didn't hit anybody. Nobody hit me. The truck rolled over, slid to a stop, and there was another truck driver that saw the whole thing, and he pulled over. He ran over. He jumped up on top of the truck. If you ever try to get a truck door open against gravity, it's not easy. Those things are heavy. And he was pulling. I was trying to push. I'm still dangling there, and I'm trying to. I unbuckled myself, and I got this. So I'm standing up, and I can't quite, push very much because I can't reach, but I'm trying to push the door. He's trying. Well, another guy got up there, and they pull this door open, and so then I get out. But before I got out, I don't know how this happened. I guess we were so close to the cities, but a news station showed up. White van, camera, everything. And I'm trying to get out, and I'm trying to grab a few things, my wallet, and this guy's trying to get me out. Well, it took a little while. And I kid you not, there was a news cameraman like this, and he's just right there, and he's just filming me. I got so mad. If I had a gun or if I could have reached through, I'm just like, he was just filming me, just like watching me as I'm trying to struggle to get out of this thing. And I got mad. I was like so mad at this guy. If I could get out and reach you, I would have punched him out. But finally, the guy pulled me out, and the police, state trooper showed up, and he had mercy because he could have given me a ticket for loss of control. Even though it's black ice, it's just that you lose control, it's your fault. And he told me that. He said, I can give you a ticket. And I found out later that my company had a policy. It was just their policy. If you got a ticket or you lost control and you got a ticket, you're fired. Well, he didn't give me a ticket. He's like, you're having a bad enough day. He's like, I'm just going to, you just do what you got to do with your company. So he was really nice. He was real professional about it. But I was all a blur after that. They put me up in a hotel, the company, and I remember my father-in-law calling me. I don't remember if you even called me or not. It's my dad. Maybe you did. I don't think you did. But Terry Hamilton called me. You know Terry Hamilton. And one thing he said, it stuck with me. We were talking, he asked me what happened, and we were just talking about things, and he said, Case, he's like, I know you don't want to hear this, but he's like, you need to get right back in that truck and keep on driving. And it was the last thing I wanted to hear. It took away my confidence. I'm like, I can't do this. I obviously don't know how to do this. And but I did, and I drove for another 5.5 years, and I never had another accident. And I drove. I'm not bragging. I'm not going to be prideful. I'm just saying that God gave me the confidence. He gave it back to me because I lost it. I was terrified to get back in that big rig, but I've driven in Los Angeles, New York City multiple times, up into Canada, Houston, you name it. I've driven a big rig. I have put that truck into impossible places. I can remember in Chicago, cars on both sides of the street, and there's a brick wall there, and to get it in, you literally had to jackknife it, and once you were in, you were jackknifed. That's just how you were sitting. And it was just a dark hole, and you couldn't see once your trailer went into it. But I did it, and again, God gave me the confidence, and God helped me. And of course, I did a lot of praying after that. But
Are you expecting Terry to call you after you crash the helicopter?
I'm getting to that. But a lot of this, I didn't share at the time. But of course, I was feeling insecure and overwhelmed in these things. But Terry gave me that advice, and I followed it. More recently is the helicopter thing, and I'm not complaining. I'm blessed that I get to do it. It's obviously a financial commitment, but I've been excited about it. It's really cool. There's lots of neat things. I got to send some of you the bear. I mean, we're just right along. There's this bear in the middle of the field. We get to swoop down and chase him a little bit. But I've been real open with Joy and my kids. I have just struggled with it. This fear and just this paralyzing fear. I will be honest with you. I started with Ace Helicopters here in O'Connell when they came over to do the O'Connell fly-in. And I almost quit. It was like the second day, and I was lying in bed, and I'm just like, I can't do this. This is just terrifying. And you've got this 2,000-pound machine that has got this high-speed rotor, going around your head, and it's like a $800,000, $1 million machine, and it's extremely unstable. It's just slight movements. It just flies off. And then I'm just like, I'm in a death trap here. I'm in a tin can that's flying in the air. And I'll just be honest with you, I have struggled with it. And even this week, I was over in Eau Claire training with Zach Arvold, and I still, Dr. Don Arvold, some of you know him, but he's like, Casey, he's like, relax. And I found myself, I'm gripping the controls, and I was leaning over towards him. He's like, sit up straight. He's like, I'm just so tense. But I'm getting the skills. I'm starting to get more comfortable with things, but I'm just struggling with it. And so I've been very insecure. I'm just like, I'm down on myself. I'm just like, other people have learned to hover at 17, 20 hours, and here I am. I'm coming up on 50 hours, and I'm still kind of struggling with it a little bit. And I'm just like, okay, I just must be stupid. I can't do this, whatever. All this is going on in my head. But before I go on, I saw this one student. There's always other students there, and he had his T-shirt on. And I found some others, but it had the word helicopter, it had the definition. And I thought it was hilarious. Because since I've been flying, I might kind of understand. But helicopter, noun. Here's the definition: thousands of parts flying in close formation around an oil leak, waiting for a warning light to come on. I'm like, that's a very good definition. I like this one too. A miracle of engineering where rotor blades spin at high speeds a few feet from your skull. That's another good one. A gravity denial device powered by 20,000 parts, 17 warning lights, and one very nervous pilot. And that would be me. But anyway, I'm grateful for the opportunity. I've learned a lot, and I've got a ways to go. I'm in it for the long haul. I'm not giving up. But I've been very insecure in that area. But godly confidence. here are some thoughts and some verses for you on this. We all struggle with this. But number one, godly confidence is rooted in God's strength, not ours. Godly confidence is rooted in God's strength, not ours. Mike, could you look up Ephesians 3 and then 11 through 12? Ephesians 3, 11 through 12. Keegan, could you look up Proverbs 3:26? And then Andy, 2 Timothy 1:7. And then Tian, 1 Thessalonians 5:24. And then whenever you're ready, Mike.
Phone is not cooperating.
Oh, do I need to sign yours to somebody else?
Maybe.
Keegan, what does yours say?
The Lord shall be thy confidence, and shall keep thy foot from being taken.
That right there is my theme verse for flying helicopters. I found that verse and I'm like, that's what I need. And I literally have been saying that, I'm going to the hangar. I'm like, for the Lord is thy confidence, for the Lord is thy confidence, and the instructor's like, all right, we're ready to take off. He's like, pull up on the collector. I'm like, for the Lord is thy confidence. And the helicopter goes up and we start doing this number and he's like, Gase, get that under control. I'm like, I'm trying. But that's my theme verse. I love that. It says, it's the Lord that shall be thy confidence. It's not you. It's not your instructor. It's not somebody else. It's not money. It is the Lord shall be thy confidence. Mike, what's your say?
Ephesians 3, 11 and 12.
Yes.
According to the eternal purpose which he purposed in Christ Jesus our Lord, in whom we have boldness and access with confidence by the faith of him.
I love that. As I started looking up these words, confidence, I started seeing the word confidence surrounded by these other just manly words, like boldness and confidence and faith. We're going to see some more of these words here. And I got the idea, I'm like, this is really something important for us men. I know I've struggled with it. There's some other men that I've talked to recently that I'm like, man, they're struggling with confidence and they need to be men and to stand up. What about 2 Timothy 1:7?
For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind.
I know that verse doesn't mention confidence, but you get the idea, right? God hasn't given us that spirit, but the exact opposite, one of power. And that resonates with men, right? One of power. I will say, it's not all been terrifying. It's been a lot of incredible experiences with the helicopter, but it's so amazing. Just you're on the ground and you just pull that collective up and that thing just picks up right off the ground and you push forward and that thing just takes off. And just the beauty you can see from the air, it's amazing. This week I was out by Chippewa Falls, Eau Claire area, but with the Arvolds, and Dr. Don, he's the father, and then Zach is the son. And Zach was here the one night at church. I don't know if you remember, but he's like, I want to go up with you, Casey. I haven't gone up with you yet. I'm like, okay. And so we go out, and he's like, all right, I want you to go down by that river, and I want you to follow the river. And this river is making like 180s. It's just doing that number. And I'm like, I said, I don't know how to make those turns that sharp. And he's like, all right, well, I'll do it, and I'll show you. And you're going like this. And, he's like, watch out for that tree. And I'm like, just like up, down, left, right, just left mirror, right mirror, I'm like, but it was amazing. We're flying over this river, and we looked below, and there was a doe with 2 fawns that was crossing the river, and they were looking up at us. And then, I kid you not, we saw like 4 eagles, and this one eagle saw us coming, and it just dove down, and it flew ahead of us for like, I don't know, for like 30 seconds. It's just flying ahead of us, and we're following the eagle. It was just beautiful. But God's given us the spirit of power. You get the idea of confidence and of a sound mind.
Are there any laws about harassing bears?
Yeah. He's always, don't put that on YouTube. Like I won't. But, you get the idea of confidence in God, a sound mind and power. What about 1 Thessalonians 5:24?
Faithful is he that calleth you, who also will do it.
God is faithful. He's faithful. And if he called you, he will do it. So godly confidence is rooted in God's strength, not ours. And that's where we can draw that confidence from. When you're feeling overwhelmed, when you're feeling insecure, whatever the situation may be, God can give you the confidence, but it's through his strength. Number 2, godly confidence enables boldness and leadership. And I like this one. Godly confidence enables boldness and leadership. If you're not confident as a man, if you're insecure, if you're feeling inadequate, then you're not going to be bold and you're not going to be a good leader. So we need that godly confidence as men. Joshua 1:9, you don't have to turn there, but God speaking to Joshua after his boss has passed off the scene, Moses, he told Joshua, he was the brand new leader, probably struggling with some insecurities, maybe struggling with a feeling inadequate, right? How could I ever measure up to Moses, right? I mean, what a tough act to follow. I mean, the guy led a whole nation across the Red Sea. That's a little bit tough to compete with, right? He probably was struggling with feelings of inadequacy, but this is what God told him, and I love this. It says, "Have not I commanded thee? Be strong and of good courage. Be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed. For the Lord thy God is with thee, whithersoever thou goest." God was trying to give him confidence. But the first part of that verse says, "Have not I commanded thee?" That's where we can get our confidence, guys, as husbands, as fathers, as managers, as business owners. If God's directed you to do it, then he's going to enable you to do it. He's going to give you what you need, the strength, the wisdom, the knowledge, the skill to do what you have to do. There's been times I've felt inadequate as a husband or as a father. I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing here, Brennan's going to be 13 in a few months. I'm going to have 3 teenagers. I've never been down this path before. I might struggle with feeling insecure about it, but, God has called me to do that, has he not? He has given those kids to me. I am their father. I do love them, and with God's help, I can do it. I can draw confidence from that, not in myself, but in that if God's called me to do this, have not I commanded thee? Have not I commanded thee to lead your family, to lead Joy, to lead Shonda, Dea, and Brennan? Well, then he's going to enable me to do so. And I can take confidence from that. So when you get a command from God, right there, that should instill confidence. If he's called you to be a missionary, if he's called you to be a plumber, then do it. He will enable you. Let's all turn to 1 Samuel chapter 17. Here's a very classic example of confidence in action, godly confidence. 1 Samuel 17. Look at verse 23 and 24. And he talked with them, this is talking about David, behold, and as he talked with them, behold, there came up the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, and out of the armies of the Philistines, and spake according to the same words, and David heard them. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were sore afraid. Does it sound like the nation of Israel at the time had confidence in God? They had lost that, and that's the problem. They should have already been in battle. They should have already had the victory at this point. They were sitting there camped out eating s'mores when they should have been swinging a sword. It should have already been done, but they didn't have godly confidence. Look at verse 29. And David said, what have I now done? Is there not a cause? Again, David had a commandment from God. He had a purpose. And that's where he drew his confidence from, is that God's told me to do this. Look at verse 32. I'll read a few verses here. And David said to Saul, let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with this Philistine. Wow, what confidence. He's trying to comfort the king here, a seasoned warrior, and he's just a teenage boy. And Saul said to David, thou art not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for thou art but a youth, and he a man of war from his youth. And David said unto Saul, thy servant kept his father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock. And I went out after him, and smote him, and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard, and smote him, and slew him. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he hath defied the armies of the living God. David said, moreover, the Lord hath delivered me out of the paw of the lion, and out of the paw of the bear. He will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said to David, go, and the Lord be with thee. Talk about confidence. Man, where did this come from? It wasn't from, it could have been from experience. You know, I've been doing this for years. This is going to be no problem. He had no experience, or at least not fighting giants. But he had confidence because it came from the Lord. And then one more section here. Look at verse 44. And the Philistine said to David, come to me, and I will give thy flesh to the fowls of the air and to the beasts of the field. Did Goliath have confidence? Oh, absolutely. What was the difference? Now we've got two guys, both of them very confident, kind of like a UFC fight. Yes, they're all confident at the beginning, right? But David's confident, Goliath is confident. But we know that both of them can't win here. But Goliath, what was he confident in?
Himself.
Exactly. His stature, his experience, his armor. He was a seasoned warrior. And then, you know, his confidence probably only increased when he saw this little teenage boy come out without zero armor, not a sword, nothing. He's like, you know, I got this. But David, there in verse 45, then said David to the Philistine, I love this, thou comest to me with a sword and with a spear and with a shield, but I come to thee. Aha, here's the source of the confidence. In the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. This day will the Lord deliver thee in my hand, and I will smite thee and take thine... Man, look at the confidence just oozing from this guy. Thine head from thee, and I will give the carcasses of the hosts of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. So this is a classic story of male confidence. Goliath had a lot of confidence too. David had a lot of confidence. But that's what I'm trying to tell you, is it's where you put your confidence. If you put it in yourself, us men as leaders of our families, maybe leaders that you've got a position of leadership at work, where is your confidence? You need godly confidence. It needs to be in the Lord. And if God's called you to do it, then he will enable you to do it. I do struggle sometimes with feelings of inadequacy as a father or as a husband, but I'm like, wait a minute, that's my role and it's my responsibility. I am divinely assigned these roles. Therefore, I know that I can do it if I trust in God, right?
Amen.
Real quick, Ecclesiastes 9:10, you don't have to turn there. Whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it with thy might. 1 Corinthians 10:31, whether therefore you eat or drink or whatsoever you do, do all to the glory of God. Colossians 3:23-24, and whatsoever ye do, do it heartily as to the Lord and not unto men, knowing that the Lord ye shall receive the reward of the inheritance, for ye serve the Lord Christ. Number 3, godly confidence keeps us steady under pressure. As men, we have pressure. We have pressure at work. You have pressure as a husband and as a father, and in different areas. We have, stress that we're under. But if you have that godly confidence, that will keep you going, keep you moving forward. 1 Corinthians 15:58, therefore, my beloved brethren, be ye steadfast. There's another word surrounding this word confidence. Unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. Hebrews 3:5-6, and Moses verily was faithful in all his house as a servant for a testimony of those things which were to be spoken after. But Christ as a son over his own house, whose house are we if we hold fast the confidence? Notice that phrase. That's what I'm trying to tell you, is hold fast the confidence that you have in God, and rejoicing of the hope firm unto the end. Hebrews 3:14, for we were made partakers of Christ if we hold the beginning of our confidence steadfast unto the end. And then lastly, number 4, godly confidence is humble. It's not pride, okay? I'm not talking about becoming prideful. I'm talking about having rock solid confidence that, yes, I can be the husband I need to be. I can be the father I need to be. I can do my job and I can do it well. I can learn this task. I can tackle this no matter what it is. You can. And that's not pride. It's just knowing who you are and knowing what resources you have. I love this quote. This says, men with confidence lead well because they know who goes before them. And I think that was the case with David and Joshua. They led well because they knew who went before them. So if you have confidence in God, you will be a good leader. You will be a good man, and because you know who goes before you. Last verse, and we'll shut her down. Hebrews 10:35. I love this one. Cast not away, therefore, your confidence. So as men, that's what I was doing. I'm like with different things. I was casting away my confidence. Hebrews 10:35. I encourage you to memorize this verse. Hebrews 10:35. Cast not away, therefore, your confidence, which hath great recompense of reward. That and then that Proverbs 3:26. I've really latched on to these verses. Cast not away, therefore, your confidence, which hath great recompense of reward. As men, we need confidence, but we need it in God and not in other things, not in money, not in our job, not in anything else. So we'll close now. Normally we share a little lighter side at the beginning. I'm just going to close with this humorous story. There was a wife, been married for 15 years. The last 5 years had been miserable, and they were fighting and arguing, and she was miserable. She finally had it, and she went to the front door, and she looked back and yelled at her husband, "I'm leaving you because you are way too overconfident." The husband replied, "Don't let the door hit you on your way back in." All right. That might be too much. Lord, thank you so much for this time with the men.